Okay, with all of our core functionality built in, let's now run our generator for Heroku. And you have to have the Heroku tool belt installed, but if you Google Heroku tool belt, it's a pretty easy download. So you have to say Heroku create and then pass in whatever name you want. And it has to be something unique. So it has to be, in other words, whatever I use, you won't be able to use it. So I'm going to say the company's WLP, so I'm going to say WLP overtime, and that is it. So this may take a little while because, as you can see, it creates that, and I'm sorry, yeah, that this part doesn't take the longest. When we actually push up to it, that creates the long process. But there's something before we try to push I want to show you. Now, if I do get remote -v, oh, I have to spell it correctly. Now it will show that we have this Heroku remote. We actually have two of them. One we can pull down from and one we can push up to. So this is the way that Heroku gives us a direct communication channel, and we can just pass our code and deploy it up right there. So if you're ever wondering if you're connected to Heroku or anything like that, then you can just do get remote -v. So in order to get this pushed up, type get push Heroku master. And this one will take a little while. So what this is going to do is first it pushes all the files up. That doesn't take a lot of time. But then from there, it compiles the entire system. So it brings up all the metadata. Right now you can see that it's installing all of the gems and everything like that. It's going to do, essentially, it's going to mimic what we have locally, but it does have a few other requirements. So it has a few other things that need to be in place in order for it to work. And there's some other things we're going to have to do in order to get it working properly, and you'll see why in a minute. So now it's compiling all the assets. So what that means is it's taking all of our JavaScript and our CSS files and it's minifying them so for performance. So it takes all of them and compresses them down so that they can be loaded as fast as possible. This is a relatively small app. It only takes 33.1 megabytes in order to be stored. And now I'm going to run Heroku run rake db setup, and what this is going to do is it's going to migrate the database, run our seeds file, and so all of our sample data is going to be available online. And it looks like we have one issue, and it's this confirmed one in update audit log. Oh, okay. And I know why it has this one. So I'm not going to worry about this. If you're wondering what this is, the error is right here. And if you come into Sublime Text, do universal search, you can see our update audit log method right here, that there's going to be some times where this happens after every save. And there are some times, like we just saw right here, where the confirmed method, right, like this, is not, its audit log isn't going to exist before some of those other items. So there's a few ways around it. Let's see. If I open up our seeds, what we can actually do is, let's see, I believe that if I just come, you know what? Yes, this will work. Okay, so what's happening here is this is not a big deal. This doesn't have anything to do with our app. It's just the order of precedence where these are created. So every time a post is created, because in our callback, and this is part of the reason why callbacks have a bad name and why you have to be really careful when you use them, is right here, what it's doing is it's trying to call confirmed on it right after a post has been created and it's saying that it doesn't exist yet. which is fine because we don't have any audit logs there. There's a few ways that we could get around it, but this is sample data, so this is not something that should happen in real life, and we're going to test all that out when we go through the QA process. So I'm going to say get status, and I'll say updated seeds file, get push. And after, if you've deployed once to Heroku, you don't have to say get push Heroku master. You can just say get push Heroku. And when you push that up, you're going to have all of the data there. And one of the things they actually show this Rails 12-factor gem. I'm pretty sure that's one we're going to have to add. So Heroku run rake db setup and see if we still run into the same issue or not. And if we do, it's not a big deal. We're going to have to get rid of all the sample data anyway. And it didn't, so it all worked, so that's good. And for a lot of times, I like to just run Heroku restart whenever I've made any big changes. And that just restarts the server. So let's go take a look at it. It's going to be, if you want to know where your URL is, it showed you right at the end. So we have WLP overtime. So if I come up here, there we go. So this is all working. It says you have to be signed up before we continue, which is good. And I'm going to log in as a regular user. And there you go. All of our data is there. And it looks like we didn't even need to put the Rails 12 factor in, which is cool. And so all of our data is here. If I log out, log in as a test user. Okay, here we go. This is why I think we need the Rails 12 factor gem. Just some of the, you notice how our styles aren't all working? So that's the issue. Let me look at admin dashboard. Okay, that's there. Still doing that weird zoom in thing. That's just something with administrate. But let me test this out. I'm gonna open up the gem file, come down. Oop, I thought I copied the other one after it. I know how to spell it. I don't need to look it up. Okay, so gem, and this is going to be Rails 12 factor. And what this does is it works with Heroku and the connection between Heroku and Rails. So I'm going to say bundle. It's definitely taking its sweet time, that's for sure. Okay, said could not find that. Let's see. That's interesting. I'm gonna Google it really quick just to make sure that I'm pulling in the right one. So I'm gonna say Heroku Rails assets. I'm gonna say Rails 12 factor. Oh, that's why. See, that is the reason why sometimes it is just better to copy and paste some of those. It doesn't have an underscore. Okay, now we run bundle and let it pull this in. And while it's doing that, let me open up the browser and show you what this does. So it says makes running your Rails apps easier based on the ideas behind 12 factor, and you can experiment. You go check out 12 factor if you're interested. But it says Rails gets a lot right when it comes to 12 factor apps, but could still be better. And so this has a number of different things. So definitely recommend going into it. The main one that I use it for is right here, Rails 4 serving static assets, because that's one of the things that it doesn't do great. So let's see, that worked. I'll say get added Rails 12 factor, get push Heroku, because there's one other thing I wanted to see in our app, if it was there or not. If I go to time entries, oh yeah, well I need to log in as the right kind of user. That would help. Test and test. Okay, go into time entries. Okay, no, so these are good. So it does have our icons, because I have had a number of times where the icons don't show up. So it's interesting. It's like the only thing that is not available to us. It even has a nice little JavaScript deal up there. And so the only thing that is buggy is the admin portion. Okay, so that's there. I'm going to say Heroku restart. Just be on the safe side. And see why those are not showing up. Okay, test and test. We want to see admin. And those are still not there. Okay, this video has gone on long enough. In the next video, and I'm actually behind on my time, so in the next video we're gonna debug why our CSS files aren't showing up here, so that we can make sure everything that's local is also showing up online. So I will see you then.